Husband ignores me using Reddit and I wrote a post to let him know I'm divorcing him. I, 29 female, have been married to my husband, 35 male, for 5 years, and we've been together for nearly 10. On paper, everything seemed fine. But in reality, our marriage has been anything but. I've reached my breaking point and I need to know if I'm the one in the wrong here. From the beginning, my mother-in-law has been a nightmare. She made everything about her from day one. At our wedding, she wore white, claiming it was a family tradition. It wasn't. She constantly criticizes me from my cooking to my appearance. I'll never forget the time she called me fat at a family gathering right in front of everyone. And what did my husband do? Nothing. Not a single word to defend me. It didn't stop there. She has accidentally destroyed my belongings, including my grandmother's necklace, which she threw out because it looked like cheap costume jewelry. She's gone out of her way to make me feel small and unwelcome in my own home. But every time I tried to talk to my husband about it, he'd brush it off, saying I was overreacting or being too emotional. And then there's my husband. He's always on Reddit, constantly giving strangers relationship advice, which is laughable considering how he treats me. He spends more time rating women's boobs on Reddit than talking to me, literally. And just so you know, the last pair he rated weren't a 4 out of 10. They were a 10 out of 10. Yeah. He's got plenty of time to do that, but he can't be bothered to remember anything about my life. He'll forget my birthday, our anniversary, even simple things like what I'm working on or what's important to me, but he has a perfect memory for his work schedule and things that matter to him. When we fight, he becomes incredibly hostile and always throws in a sarcastic buddy at the end of his sentences, like I'm some acquaintance he can barely tolerate. And he never cleans the house, the dishes, laundry, you name it. It's all on me. It's like he thinks being an adult is optional as long as he's got his job and his Reddit account. The final straw came a few weeks ago. I'm 5 months pregnant with our first child, a daughter. My mother-in-law started making comments about how she'll have to whip the girl into shape and how she'll raise her to be tough because I'm too soft. When I told my husband that I didn't want his mother to have too much influence on our daughter, especially with the way she treats me, he just laughed it off, saying his mother means well and that I was overthinking it. But the moment that truly broke me was when we were talking about future children, and my husband suggested that his mother should watch our daughter while we work. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, especially considering how his mother treats me, and he snapped. He called me paranoid and said I should get over it because his mother was going to be a big part of our daughter's life whether I liked it or not. This is the same woman who believes corporal punishment is okay. I've seen her hit my husband's nephew for the smallest things and no one does anything about it. It's like they're all living in some kind of cult, and I'm finally waking up to the reality of what's going on. If he won't stand up for me, how could I expect him to stand up for our child? I started to fear what kind of environment our daughter would grow up in. A place where she might be belittled or bullied by her own grandmother with a father who wouldn't do anything to stop it. Oh, and did I mention that he missed our first ultrasound? His mother needed him to help her with something urgent. It turned out to be fixing her Wi-Fi. He chose that overseeing our daughter for the first time. That told me everything I needed to know about where I stand in his life. So I packed up and left. I'm done living like this. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I've already contacted a lawyer. You can't scare me into complying anymore because I have all those texts. You know exactly which ones I'm talking about. So, Stefan, I wish you all the best in your future marriage with your mother and the women of Reddit whose boobs you don't even deserve. Am I the a-hole for leaving my husband after he neglected me for years, let his mother mistreat me, and made me fear for our future daughter's safety? Well, I'm guessing this question is absolutely rhetorical as it should be. But regardless of that, no, of course, you are not the a-hole. You're protecting yourself and the kid. Good for you. Now I know you got a lawyer and you probably drafted the divorce papers with a lawyer and are having your husband served, but I would also talk to him about how you can protect your child from future custody. Of course, I am absolutely ignorant in the topic, so I don't know if there's anything you can do to keep your daughter away from him because his mother is a danger to children. Maybe you need to talk to your sister-in-law or your brother-in-law, whoever is not related to the woman and it's the father of the nephew. Because now the next step is to keep you out of harm's way and of course to keep protecting your daughter. And what do you guys think about Op's situation? What would you do now if you were in her shoes? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Simplicarpet 9946 says, give the baby your last name. Don't name a father and try to give birth out of state. This way, he'll need to work to establish paternity, which takes a lot of time and money, so make him earn it. You'll get primary custody especially if it's out of state. Did you tell any trusted friends where you're going? I would contact your police department in the old town and let them know you willingly left in case they try to file a missing persons report or paint you as mentally insane for custody purposes. I really hate fish, says, not the a-hole. Stefan sucks to suck. Seriously though, I hope your mother was worth effing up your relationship with your wife and daughter. Given that you want to leave your baby in the care of a known abuser, I hope you only get supervised visits at most. You won't get OP back, but seriously, try to be better. Are you the kind of man you want your daughter to get married to in the future? Grow up. Cut the umbilical cord that ties you to your mother. Get some therapy to become a better man because right now, you sound like a pathetic little boy. And Strange Loop 414 says, Imogene bro sitting down and reading this at first like, wow, imagine if this was actually for me. Wait, oh, that might be because oh my god, the necklace thing, the ultrasound, mom. Additional information from Ops comments. The big wake up for me happened at work. A few months ago, I got to witness what an actual healthy relationship is like. I made a friend through work who invited me over for dinner. Her husband was there, and I saw how they interacted. It was really small, but that was basically what triggered the holy construction. Her husband has since also come to work to surprise her, and she has dragged me along to find tiny, silly gifts for him. She is always so excited to go home to see him. He always brings her something home. Last week, she came in with a shiny rock he had found for her and she proudly put it next to her desktop. A partner should be attentive, care about you, and want to do things for you and with you. They should be fire and flame when it comes to making your relationship work, not just let you carry all the burden. My life was not normal. Took me a few months to understand. They really are a lovely couple, and I have a lot to thank them. It's like the loving slap I needed to wake up from this nightmare, especially one night when we were out, not even clubbing, but at a night museum tour, and calls were bombarding me because he was trying to make me feel bad for being out. My friend looked at me concerned and asked me if I noticed that her husband had texted her only once. I was convinced that going out was awful for everyone. Then I asked if she ever fought with her husband like I told her I did. She told me they don't scream fight. If they get upset at each other, they will take time out and then communicate to actually solve the problem. Of course, they have their issues and their things, but she never badmouths him or complains about him. The strongest thing she has said is that his snore is too loud and she is concerned that he has a deviated septum. Ops short-term update. Stefan has seen this post. He is mad that apparently one of you found him based on the rate my boob things. He has deleted his account. For any purposes, I want to clarify that I left out any actual incriminating information that could lead to doxing him. Any and all people who are pretending to know me or have any incriminating information about me are lying. I am not from South Carolina. I am not moving in with another guy and I'm also not sleeping around. Alright, well, the community agrees that is not the hope, that she should protect herself and her family. Apparently, Stefan did find the post and he deleted the account. I did my best to try to find it but I could not. We also learned about Op's big wake-up call and what triggered this whole process. Additionally, OP has given us an update. So how about we move on with that to see how this story ends. Some people on Reddit have been pretending to know me and spreading false claims. They've said I'm a deadbeat who doesn't work and Stefan has 2 jobs to support me. They even fabricated a story about a neighbor who supposedly is a good friend of ours saying, I've been sleeping around and moving in with the guys I supposedly had affairs with. None of this is true. We don't live in South Carolina or the UK, and we're not friends with any of our neighbors. I have never cheated on Stefan, and I work and make slightly more than him. Just $1 in an hour difference. I suspect these claims might be from trolls brigading or Stefan's friend trying to make me regret posting about him. I am safe and staying with family, which is all I'm going to say for now. I'm working with my lawyer to ensure our safety and that's all I can disclose at this time. For women who find themselves in my situation and are dealing with a lease, consult with a pro bono lawyer who specializes in rental rights. That's what I did. They can give you specific advice to your country or region. In my case, I was able to move out because Stefan and I had both signed a lease contract and had completed the minimum rental period. After my free consultation, I worked with my landlords who are a lovely older couple to arrange my departure. So don't be scared you can be scared, but there are things you can do to protect yourself. Also, make sure to run a credit check on yourself. I did, and it's another issue I'm addressing. As for recent developments, there hasn't been much new. Stefan is clearly desperate. He and my mother-in-law have both had meltdowns and launched separate smear campaigns. My mother-in-law has spread false claims including that I'm an unfit mother and that I've been abandoning my responsibilities. I don't plan to answer these claims publicly. I'm collecting all evidence I have especially since she has nothing to back up her accusations, but I have everything to back up mine. So no, Stefan, this is not going to be a he said, she said situation. He deleted his Reddit account claiming it was because one person found him. But then he told me a bunch of people sent him death threats which seems impossible and contradictory. He did send his friends to my post, and I think they sent me some unsavory DMs and comments, allegedly. When I tried to talk to Stefan, he always made me feel like I was going crazy. Whenever I raised concerns or expressed feelings, he would dismiss them, belittle my emotions, and make me second-guess myself. For instance, I'd come home to find that he had invited people over without informing me in advance. When I brought it up, he'd insist that he had mentioned it earlier even though I knew he hadn't. Another time, I planned a special meal and asked him for a specific dish, but he claimed I had requested something completely different. When I reminded him of what I had actually asked for, he'd argue that I must have forgotten my own request. Stefan would also insist he had completed tasks that I had actually done myself. For example, he would claim he had handled a household chore when I was the one who actually took care of it. When I pointed this out, he'd dismiss my recollection and insist that he had done it. Even in conversations about our relationship, Stefan would frequently deny things he had said or done. If I brought up issues I had with his mother's behavior, he'd claim, "You never mentioned that before. You're just being overdramatic." This made me question whether I had ever truly discussed these problems or if I was indeed overreacting. At one point, I was so convinced that I had early-onset dementia or schizophrenia that I started to question my own sanity. I felt lost and confused, struggling to distinguish between reality and his version of events. I began to document our interactions just to keep track of what was actually happening. But Stefan would always find a way to twist things, saying, "You must be misremembering," even though I had clear evidence to the contrary. Feeling so powerless, I realized that sharing my story online was the only way to present my truth in a manner he couldn't manipulate. I wanted to ensure that there was a clear and unchangeable record of what had happened. Posting about my experiences was a crucial step in reclaiming my voice and finding support from others who might understand my situation. It was a way to take control of my narrative after feeling so lost and doubting myself for so long. Thank you all for your support during this difficult time. Felipe, it's good to know that even though you've gone through hell, you were able to set the record straight for yourself and get to a place where you are safe and which you are right now. So all that there's left to say is just wish you and your daughter the best in the future, whether it's in legal proceedings against Stefan or trying to get rid of him or just in life. So thank you so much for sharing, OP, and take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit, Am I the A-hole? And it's by user Make Me Fame. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for coffee? My sister-in-law was on her way to my house for a family road trip. She said she was stopping at Starbucks for coffee and I said get me a hot coffee. She said she's getting me an iced coffee because it's too hot to be drinking hot coffee. I said, no, I don't like iced coffee. Get me a hot one. She showed up with two iced coffees. Honestly, I'm not a morning person and I couldn't be bothered to argue, so I said it's fine. She handed it to me and I told her I'm not drinking that. In the car, she asked me to Venmo her for the coffee. I said, why would I do that? She said, because I got coffee for you. Well, obviously, it wasn't for me, so I said no. Now, she's mad and honestly, I don't care. My mom says I should send the money. My dad and brother, however, said I'm not in the wrong. Am I the a-hole? No. OP, you're not the a-hole and your sister-in-law is being ridiculous. She said she was stopping by Starbucks. You said, hey, get me a coffee. She said, okay, I'll get you a nice coffee. You say, no, I don't want to drink that. I want a hot coffee. No, I decide what you drink, so she got 2 of them and now she wants to make you pay? No. OP, stand your ground. You don't pay for anything. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Having Hope 3594 says, not the she purposely got you something you didn't like. Why should you have to pay for it? No, I wouldn't pay her. Just out of principle to not encourage that kind of behavior. Honey Vinegar 42 says, not the you requested hot coffee. He stated explicitly that you don't like iced coffee and she gets you an iced coffee because she thinks she knows your taste better than you do. And now she wants you to pay for the coffee you didn't want? No, you ask for a hot coffee. You should get a hot coffee and then pay for that. I don't care if it's a 115 degrees in the shade. You want to drink hot coffee. That's your choice. And I agree. Cold coffee is very unappealing at best. I'd just never ask her to pick up a coffee for you again. And G Mama S says, this isn't even about a-holes. It's about family dysfunction. When my family heads out on a road trip and one of us is meeting up with another one of us, we would just grab them an effing coffee because you're family. Going on a family road trip and one of you had the luck to pass by a coffee shop. What's with the Venmo me BS? Is it normal for most people to be like this with their family members? Is my family the effed up one? So the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and OP has given us 2 short updates. So let's move on with that to see how this whole thing ends. I still haven't paid for it, nor am I planning to. She's being super passive-aggressive, but that's her personal problem. It's just coffee. I've no problem paying $8 for it, but I think it's a weird power play thing she does. And thinking back on it, I've seen her do subtle things like this all the time. Her and my brother had a huge fight about it, which is absurd, but I overheard him telling her to stop expecting everyone to bend to her, and she threatened to leave. So he said, when we get back home, she can pack her things and go back to her dad's house. So, yeah, things went left pretty quickly. Ops final update. They broke up. My brother said she's a bully and he's sick of her trying to manipulate everyone. The lady Venmo requested my mom, and my mom, a Jamaican lady, cussed her out. Crying emoji. She said it's the principle because she didn't have to go out of her way to be disregarded, and I cannot believe all of this stemmed from coffee. Misty emoji. Willoughby, you might not like iced coffee, but that iced coffee dodged your brother a bullet.